Well, Belgian authorities confirming the arrest of a third man who was at the Brussels airport during those deadly attacks. Mohamed Abrini admitting to police that he was the, quote, man in the hat captured on surveillance video alongside two bombers just before the attack. As investigators learn more about attacks, more questions are surfacing about the bomb maker, Najim Lakraoui. He blew himself up at the airport on March 22nd, and we're learning about his skills that could have led to a bright future instead of terror. And also the question is, how did he slip under the radar? Let's talk about it with Mark Dubowitz, the executive director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. It's good to see you, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Arthel.
Absolutely. So are you certain that Mohamed Abrini is the man in the hat? And if you believe it is him, is there anything about this arrest or the handling of this case in general that seems a bit off to you?
Arthel, that's what the authorities are confirming, that this is the man. And in fact, he was initially picked up in surveillance footage back in December. He's been Europe's most wanted man because he was caught in footage with a gentleman named Salah Abdeslam, who was responsible for the Paris attacks, and they were caught on their way to Paris. What makes me concerned about this arrest is that it's taken so long to roll up this network, and that reportedly there are still 20 people at large who are part of this network. So by no means have they actually found everybody, and I'm very, very concerned that there's going to be another attack.
So what does that say to you about this network? And going back to the bomb maker, why would a bomb maker, Lakraoui, kill himself as a suicide bomber?
Suggests to me that there are many other bomb makers in Europe, that there's probably a master bomb maker. In fact, French and Belgian authorities have been talking on television there about a Palestinian member of ISIS who has infiltrated into Europe, and maybe the master bomb maker who is training other bomb makers. Otherwise, there's no way they would be risking a sole bomb maker for a suicide attack for one terrorist attack. So it suggests the network skills are very sophisticated, and the European authorities have an enormous problem on their hands.
And I want to talk a little bit more about that. But first, here is a question for authorities, or do you think authorities will ever be able to answer, Mark, why? Why would someone like Najim Lakraoui, an educated European, who, according to a New York Times article, was radicalized in, quote, the classrooms of good schools and university study groups? I mean, why and how? How does this happen?
It's true. It's somebody, he was born in Morocco. He grew up in Belgium. He went to Catholic school. He was educated as an electrical engineer. There were no outward signs of jihadism, though he had become more religious. His brother, in fact, was a Belgian Taekwondo champion. So again, it just suggests that these Muslim men, whether they are religious or devoutly secular, are increasingly attracted to ISIS and jihadism and Salafism, and it suggests an enormous security problem, again, not just for the Europeans, but we cannot be complacent in the United States.
Absolutely.
We may face this problem ourselves.
Well, let's hope not, but I understand your point there. But, you know, we talked about, you mentioned that Lakraoui, pardon me, was seen in surveillance video in December with Salah Abdeslam. With the surveillance video released this week of him, tracking this guy for a couple of hours immediately following the bombings at the Brussels airport, yet it has taken 2.5 weeks to find and arrest him. And you also mentioned, the video in December. Are authorities in places like Belgium and Paris, I mean, sort of off the mark for creating areas, neighborhoods where they kind of stay away from for various reasons, in effect creating hideout havens for terrorists?
What's remarkable is with all of these men, they are being sheltered by some members of their community. There is some evidence that they're involved and being sheltered again by organized crime. And so again, they were not on the run in remote areas of Belgium or France. They were actually in the heart of Brussels. That's my point, exactly. Well, that's right, in neighborhoods that are very close to the European Union and its European Parliament. So it is deeply troubling that the European security services are having this kind of trouble, but it suggests, Arthel, they are completely overwhelmed by the thousands and thousands of foreign fighters who've gone to Syria and Iraq, who've come back radicalized and well-trained, the hundreds of thousands of migrants that have come into those countries, most of whom are peaceful, some of whom are not.
Right, but to that point, and I have to run, unfortunately, but short answer, to that point, do you think the European unions, as well as neighboring nations and countries, would perhaps consider closing their borders, not keeping people out, but making it so they just can't roam freely from country to country as they do now?
You're starting to see that backlash in Europe right now. There was obviously Angela Merkel in Germany let in hundreds of thousands of migrants, refugees, but you're starting to see that backlash in Germany and France and Belgium, and people are now talking about closing those borders. They're negotiating with the Turks to try and take many of those migrants back into Turkey. And it suggests to all of us that, again, I mean, we need to be a haven for peaceful people and refugees who want to come here, but we have to be very, very careful about the significant security challenges that poses.
Mark Dubowitz, I have to leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, Arfel.
Absolutely.